Hello again and welcome to another episode of the Franchise Everything podcast where we talk about everything and anything franchising. And today I'm joined by Harry Parker Arday, who is a franchise owner for the Lounge Repair Guys. G'day Harry, how you doing?
Hey, good, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thanks mate. We've been trying to line this up for a few weeks, haven't we?
A little while now, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to hear.
Make it happen.
Excellent,
Yeah.
mate. Thanks for coming into the studio.
problem.
I wanted to hear your story about being a Lounge Repair Guys franchise owner. Now your territory is northern Gold Coast to southern outer areas of Brisbane, is that right?
That's right, yeah. I sort of cover from about sort of Mount Gravatt area down to sort of Coomera. So that stretch and everything in between.
So for those who don't know, what does Lounge Repair Guys do? What do you do on a daily basis?
So our main business is that we're a mobile business. We drive around and sort of tackle any number of jobs from 6 to 8 jobs a day. We do everything from upholstery care, frame repairs for lounges, upholstery cleaning, generally on lounges, but we do other furniture as well, dining furniture, bedding as well. So
Is there anything you don't like doing? Is there anything when you get the order for the oh my God, I got to do
a lot
that one?
of people think we can fix absolutely everything.
Yeah.
There is a point
You're
at
miracle
which-
workers.
Yeah, essentially. There is a point though where sometimes it is better to throw it in the bin, and we will honestly tell people if that's the case. But we're trying
even though there's no money in it for you to do that.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. But we don't want to take something on that, like you said, we aren't miracle workers, but if people get onto it soon enough, a lot of issues can be rectified back to a new quality as long as they, Yeah.
Is that right? So it's so what do you always say? Let's envision this. So is it like you've got a bit of a tear
Bit of a
and you
tear.
let it run and
Yeah,
it goes too
scratch.
far, you can't fix it.
That's right. So a lot of the jobs we do is sort of aesthetic damage, scratches from pets, kids, stains. That's probably the bulk of what we're getting at the moment through people who are reaching out to us privately. Because we do a lot of warranty repair work as well for retailers. But for the private work, customers will generally contact us if they need a clean done or if there's some, like I said, aesthetic damage. We can basically restore the surface of leather, assuming it's not too damaged, basically to the point where you wouldn't really be able to see the scratches anymore or the stains. Basically what we're doing is essentially restoring furniture to a degree that is acceptable to the customer sort of.
But you're not reupholstering now. You don't do full reupholstery, do you?
We do a bit of upholstery,
little
so not so much the full recovers, but we do a lot of, say you just got one area that had a cut in it. If we could find a leather that suitably matched that or a fabric that matched it, which there is a lot available, luckily for us, through local suppliers, we'll take that section away and just fix that. So we'll do a recover, because sometimes that is the only option for the repair.
So what sort of skills do you need to do that type of thing? So is there anything specific, any trade or apprenticeship with it? Or?
I suppose it would help if you sort of had a predisposition for tool usage.
So like the good with your hands type of
if
description.
you're good with your hands. But in all honesty, there's not, with this job, there's not a degree or trade tied to it officially. If you've got a background in upholstery, that would help you out a lot, but it's more of a job that you learn along the way. So a lot of us that got into this sort of started out with a 3-month sort of training, 3 to 6 months if it's needed. But I suppose if you're just handy and you're a quick learner, you can pick up this job relatively quickly.
So back to you, how did you start out? Where did you start out of school with your career and everything and your path to being a franchise owner now?
Sure. So I not that long out of school, I was only about 19 years old. I got a job at Bunnings. I ended up working there for about 7 years. So I was there a good while and I was looking for a bit of a job change, but I liked the aspects of Bunnings where I was being hands-on with things, bit of DIY.
So you're just in that environment.
Yeah, that's right. Learning to use a lot of different tools and equipment. And essentially I was looking for a change. And the thought of working on the road really appealed to me. I would look at, mobile trades and even delivery type jobs because I like to drive.
A lot of people, even a lot of career drivers and everything. I've interviewed a lot of career drivers on the podcast and everything as well. They just love being out and about.
Yeah.
They love being on the road.
So I was kind of factoring that into what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I actually had a friend of mine reach out to me who was currently working for Lounge Repair Guys for a franchise. And they said, look, would you be interested in coming in for a job trial? They're really desperate. They need someone to start soon because they're expanding.
They had too much work.
They had a lot of work coming in and they needed to grow. And it's a fairly niche industry, so there's not a lot of public awareness about it, but it's growing and it is getting more out there in the public eye.
You're right. I spoke to Mark, the owner of the business, and he was saying that a lot of people don't realise that you can actually repair this stuff, and people just immediately think they have to throw it out.
That's right. So I think that's essentially where we get a lot of work for people reaching out saying, hey, this probably can't be fixed, but I was just wanting to check, and we'll say, look, that's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
Like, you can definitely repair that.
Seen much worse.
Yeah. So essentially, she got in touch with me and said, do you want to come in for a trial? So I said, look, I'll give it a go, because I was looking for a change. And
so did you quit Bunnings to go do the trial?
No, so I hadn't quit officially.
So you're a bit safe.
Yeah, so I kind of just kept that there. I was like, I'll give it a go, because I was like the rest of a lot of the public. I had no idea what the job actually entailed. And I thought, there's people that drive around fixing lounges. There probably isn't a lot of work in that. But to my surprise, so I gave it probably a 2-week trial.
Yep.
And I went around with the franchise owner, and he showed me a bit about the work they do, how many jobs they do a day. And I was honestly quite pleasantly surprised to see that they were very busy. The work wasn't particularly stressful or overly strenuous. And the flexibility around the job was quite good as well. He wasn't driving too far here and there.
Kept jobs pretty close to his territory.
Yeah, generally he would sort of have jobs all in the same area, and I felt like it was quite a good system. And I was impressed. So essentially I said, look, I'm happy to take the job if you're offering it, and signed on with him. So
when you were at Bunnings, you said you were looking around for some other things. What other stuff were you considering, or did you look around? What was your process and your thinking for it? Because there's a lot of people who are in jobs maybe that they want to change, don't want to be in. So how did you approach it?
So I was coming from the point of view where I didn't have a formal degree. I didn't have a trade. I had a couple of, Cert 3, Cert 4s.
That you've picked up over the years in various things. Yeah,
that's right. But I suppose the biggest barrier for me is that I was looking for a job that I could just start and sort of train up in that role. So, when that came along, I knew it was sort of a skill to this job, but it was good to know that I could just learn it while I've started. I didn't need sort of any qualifications beforehand. I wasn't really looking for anything else in particular. I just wanted change.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, something that's still within the realm of working with your hands.
So do you remember your first thing that you fixed? So if you were out on the road with the franchisee for a couple of weeks, did he oversaw you fixing something? What was the thinking around that? Tell the story.
One of the first jobs, actually, because I was so curious to see whether you could do it. Yeah, I remember we got in the car and he said, look, we've got about 10 jobs to do today. And I went, 10 jobs? Like, that's a lot. It's a lot of jobs. And he said, no, we'll probably be done by about 1:30. I was like, okay.
I trust you.
Yeah. So we went out, and the very first job was literally it was a warranty job, and a lounge had just been delivered, and I think there was a few loose threads hanging out of it, something that hadn't been maybe tidied up before it had gone out for delivery.
Yeah.
And that job was simply, we went there and snipped them all off, got it to the point where the customer was like, okay, because they didn't want to touch it because,
if they did thread it or whatever.
Exactly, yes. They did the right thing and called the supplier and said, look, there's a bit of an issue.
Because if you buy something, you expect it to be pristine when it turns up.
Yeah, exactly right. So, but that job literally entailed sort of going there. You take a few photos before, and we just snipped off these threads, took some photos after, got back in the car. We were probably there all of about 3 minutes, and he sort of wrote up a report saying what we did. And he said, okay, that's one job down. And I said, okay, now I can see why you can get through about 10 in a day. Not every day.
Because some are more complex, obviously.
Yeah, some jobs are more complex, but what they're sort of going off is volume of jobs. We do a lot of generally small to medium jobs because we are having a decent amount of jobs come in. I suppose they're trying to turn over as many as possible in a day. So yeah, there was an interesting start. I was thinking it can't all be like this, and it's not. But some jobs that you do they are quite simple. So,
and that's that leads me on to something else, because a lot of the work you do is warranty work for big retailers, isn't it? So talk me through how that works for you out on the road.
So with the retailers, it's actually quite a good system because all of the parts that we might need for those jobs are actually supplied to us. So for a lot of these retailers where we are doing warranty work, excuse me, you're just charging for your time and expertise. So you're not having to sort of cart around a large amount of materials for a lot of these jobs, and you've learned how to install them and replace them. So
they're the same items over and over.
That's right.
Maybe.
You've seen them over and over.
Do you get used to the same thing breaking down and the same problem on the same or something?
Yeah. There are certain areas that are sort of common repairs within a certain amount of years. And obviously some of these companies provide quite a long warranty, and you might go back out to the same customer several times. for different issues that are all covered under the warranty. But yeah, we do a variety of different things for the warranty. But I suppose what's good about it is there's a lot of information that they'll provide to you about assembly and sort of job details. And they've already spoken to the customer and sort of gone through the stressful part of that claim, and we're just sort of there to fix the problems.
That first contact.
That's right, yeah. And then by the time we get there, the customer's just happy that the issue is going to be resolved finally. So we sort of get to close that out with them.
You get to be the good guys.
Exactly right, yeah.
Yeah. So now you went out on the road for a bit. So you got the job.
Yes.
Obviously you got the job.
Yeah.
So what was the path from there?
So ended up working as an employee for my previous boss for about 18 months.
And that was the franchise owner.
That was
the
franchise,
territory?
yes. So that he was working Southern Brisbane, Northern Gold Coast, and worked for about 18 months. He was looking to sort of downscale his career a little bit because he had young children. And he approached me and said, look, I'm looking to sell it. Would you be interested? And at that time, I wasn't even really thinking of, getting into business. And I was kind of just getting to the point where I was enjoying just being an employee,
your day-to-day,
and just going with the flow a bit like that. But I thought about it and I figured I've had quite a good insight into what the job entails, what the day-to-day practice is, even the financials, because all the technicians do their own quoting. So we do have an idea of sort of what the business is turning over and what the jobs are paying. So with all that information, it sort of gave me the confidence to consider it. And in the end, I decided that I'd give it a go.
You'd jump in. So were you worried that if you didn't buy it, that might be a problem for your job as well? Was that a concern?
Well, I suppose,
partly?
Yeah. I guess that was in the back of my mind as well, is that, I was starting to enjoy that work. And, if he didn't end up selling it and maybe just, packed up, that, I wouldn't have that role anymore. So I thought, well, would be beneficial that I took it on, keep myself in business, as well as the other employees that were already working for the business that I'd obviously become colleagues. So
how did you go about, say it would have been out of the blue then, how did you go about financing and all that sort of, what was your first steps to try and figure out how am I going to do this?
Yeah, so there was...
so imagine it's a bit of a, whoa, that came out of nowhere.
At that time, there was, it was around 2020, so there was a bit of a difficulty with securing finance for all sorts of reasons. Banks were generally being a little bit tighter with lending, and that sort of lasted into around 2021, 2022. So I did approach a few lenders, but I was actually lucky enough to secure a deal through vendor finance for part of the business.
I was going to say, was that part of it? Because that's often a part of an exit like
so
that.
we had already discussed that initially at the start, because I think he wanted to sell it to me. Obviously, we'd formed that relationship over that period of time, and I think it felt good to him to know that the business would be in hands that, it will carry it on as it was, essentially. And
that's a great transaction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we came to an agreement to do a vendor finance with some upfront payment as well. And that's essentially how I ended up purchasing it.
And I think it's often the case, especially for employees in businesses, buying a business from the owner, because the biggest risk, I suppose, of vendor finance is the person you don't know.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So I think there was a bit of peace of mind on his end too, that as long as I continued the processes that had been developed, he knew that I would remain productive in that business, and there was no or little risk on his side,
Excellent. So that was what? So you basically did a try before you buy for 18 months. So it was a paid trial.
That's right, which I feel I was quite lucky to have, because that, it is a good insight into... It's a big trial. 18 months really it's enough time to know or feel confident that what you're purchasing is going to be good for you. So
just to help me out here, describe your day. So every franchise owner obviously has a different setup and everything.
Yeah,
they do it within the system and everything.
Yeah.
So what does your typical day look like?
So I've got myself on the road full time, as well as one other technician who works full time under me.
And they've got their own vehicle?
They've got their own vehicle. Yep. So a typical day for me would be, we go through and look at all the jobs that we've got for the day, the ones that require parts and the ones that don't. And I will basically get all of the parts organized for myself and the other technician. So we'll load up the vans, make sure that we've got all the materials that we need for the day. It's all very clearly laid out in the jobs, because we do like to sort of detail exactly what we're getting in there for with photos, everything. So as much information we have, the better. So we'll read through our jobs for the day.
So you got basically a really good job brief.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, essentially go through sort of a job brief because you want to know that, there's nothing that might catch you out for time because we do operate with quite a high turnover of jobs. So if you're doing sort of 8 jobs a day, you want to make sure you're not running late on any of them. So basically have a look through the day, have a bit of a look at what we've got queued up, pack up the parts. And then what we'll try and do is work out the job so that we either do sort of a big loop and end up back close to home for the last job, or we'll start far away and work our way back. And obviously that depends on customers' availability, but we'll try and sort of work at the run so that to minimize driving, because a lot of the day obviously is spent driving.
Yeah, it takes up a lot of time. It's valuable time, isn't it?
It's probably at least maybe up to half the day would be driving you know, on some days. So we're trying to be as efficient as possible without, trying to go too far past that 8-hour workday if we can.
And how do you get to, how easy is it for you to manage your time? So do you get to give windows and everything that you're going to be there so you can manage it as far as if you want to go and do other things and that sort of stuff as well?
I employ somebody that handles my administrative side and job booking. So I do employ someone that does that full time. So they will take into consideration the distance between the jobs and they'll basically try and as efficiently as possible work out those jobs so that, there's no risk of us running late. But if I need to take a little bit of extra time to say run some extra errands or go get supplies, from various different locations, it's very flexible and easy to sort of, move a job over to the other person if I need to free up a little bit more time.
It gives you that flexibility, doesn't it?
It is quite flexible. That's right. So even though I'm working full time on the road, I still feel like I can easily manage my errands and things like that as well.
So do many of the other lounge repair guys in the network have people looking after their bookings for them, or are most of them doing it for themselves?
Yeah, most of them do, especially if they're sort of operating with 2 technicians. The volume of jobs
wouldn't be fair juggle.
Some of the guys who are, say, in an area that's a bit smaller can manage to do their own admin. They may only work 3 days on the road and spend a couple of days admin, or they might just have a shorter day and do it in the evening, but they can still manage it. Once you get to the point where you do have 2 technicians on the road, the administrative side does require that bit of extra time. So, and planning. So I'm interested in, so you've got employee goggles and you've also got now business owner goggles. Yes.
What have been your takeaways from it? Is there anything that surprised you or thought, gosh, that was harder than I thought it was, or that was easier? What's your take on that difference now that you're a business owner? So how long have you been? 2.5 years, did you say?
About 2.5 years now, So I do have a greater respect for people that do run their own business with employees. Having employees is always going to have its complications,
It's ups and downs.
The things happen out of the blue that are outside of our control. And, it's just about trying to manage expectations. You can't always expect that every day or week's going to go perfectly smoothly when you're dealing with real people who have their own lives. But I suppose what I've enjoyed the most is developing those relationships with the employees to make sure there's, that they're happy with their job essentially. And I'm actually quite young, compared to some of the other franchisees. My employees are all older than me, but I suppose I felt a bit of a...
How do you handle that? You found that a challenge?
It was a little bit of a challenge, but I felt like, I didn't want to walk in and feel like I was stepping on anyone's toes or trying to be like the new kid on the block. And I listened to the people who had been, in there a bit longer than me.
So you're talking about franchisees and other franchisees and employees?
Just in my employees even, So,
because it is a little bit of a funny situation. Suddenly you're a young guy who was a team member with everyone else. Now you own the business.
That's right. So that was probably a little bit of a hurdle to navigate, but I just made sure that I took that process slowly and heard them out on all of their any concerns or even suggestions they brought to the table with a new management that they felt that, that could have been implemented. It was interesting when I took over, there was ideas that I wanted to implement too, that, process changes and things like that. And it was good to now have control of that. As an employee, you will sort of pick out the areas that you would like to improve if you were the boss one day. You kind of dream about that. And then essentially when it happened, I said, okay, well now I've got the freedom to try and, improve things in a way that I feel like would be beneficial. So I've enjoyed that part of it as well. So
do you think it's been the hardest part is the personnel management and the almost the HR type stuff?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I'm only a small business, so I've only got 3 employees. 2 of them are full-time and 1 part-time. So it's not a big.
But it's still enough if you haven't led teams like that before.
That's right. Yeah. So it was still definitely a handful to begin with, but I have enjoyed seeing that over the years, maintaining processes and communication definitely is the biggest one. Just making sure that they know that I'm here to listen if there are any concerns, and it's been good to see that over the years things have started to just coast and feel smooth. Yeah.
So and this is a sort of left field question. What's the most enjoyable part of the business for you? Like what do you enjoy most about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
I think I like the part that every day is different, really. The job never gets monotonous. It's every day there'll be a surprise. You're doing 8 to 10 jobs a day. You'll talk to a lot of different people, have a bit of a chat while you're working away. And I suppose just people, a good part of it is people are quite impressed by what we do because there's not a lot of public knowledge about. It's quite a niche job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think a good part of it is when we do a repair, some customers are just blown away.
Yeah,
I can imagine that it was repairable, and it gives you a good feeling. So,
and I suppose some of them will be sentimental pieces of furniture.
That's right.
Or something.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So when you sort of restore an old item that someone's been hanging on to for 20 years, and they're just happy to keep it going a bit longer. So I feel like there's a lot of job satisfaction in positive feedback that you get from the clients directly, and a big part of it for me is I love to be my own boss and sort of take every day and know that, my job's going to be as good as I'm willing to make it.
Yep.
And as long as I maintain the standards that I stick to and, and try and just make sure every day is productive, that, every year is a good result. So
as we wrap it up, what's your vision and crystal ball and dreams for the future? What are you? No doubt you're 2.5 years in now. It's given you enough time to take a breath, see where things are going. What's the platform or foundation for going forward?
I feel like at the moment there's definitely potential to grow, which is good. There's a lot of work coming in and we're gaining new clients all the time. So for me, I'm looking at slowly expanding. It is something I'd been thinking about for a while. You have to do it slowly, it's always
gently.
Baby steps, but it's good to know that it's going to get to the point where I can step back a little bit into more managerial role and, maybe spend a day or 2 less on the road and have another person fill that role, which will free up a bit more of my time to, focus on other things and, whether that's more marketing related or even just, I suppose.
So what does expanding the business look like? What is it, putting another team member on and you stepping back?
Essentially,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's right. So the volume of jobs that are coming in definitely, that I could put on another technician and know that I'll be able to keep them busy, which is good to know.
Because that's the number one worry, isn't it?
That's
making sure someone's
you never want
fully
to
occupied.
Put that extra person on and suddenly all the work dries up. But, after 2.5 years of quite consistent jobs coming in, at no point have I really felt like I was worried about the amount of work we were getting. If anything, it's been the opposite. I feel like over the years, the volume's increased. And I suppose that applies to me personally. But, I work quite a large area and I feel like it's good to know that I can scale the business a little bit to essentially get the most out of it that I can. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Harry, for telling us your story.
No problem.
Thank you. And that's it for another good one of the Franchise Everything podcast. Another great franchise owner journey. If you like this stuff, please share, subscribe, do all that sort of thing. And we'll catch you in the next one soon.